apologize. The man behind the curtain. Yeah, great. Maybe. Cool. Okay, so this week we're going to change gears big time and kind of get back into our animation roots a little bit more. It's really good to have a little bit of exposure with the rigid body dynamic stuff in all of our applications. It plays a huge role in our industry. As we talked before, the visual effects industry is all about dynamics, and if you're into this stuff, I would encourage you to continue exploring. There's some really fantastic applications and some frameworks that take this work to the next level, and I'm looking at an app called Houdini for the most part. If you are into this, if this is like your area that you really want to explore, Houdini is the place to hang out. A little preview. It's made by a company called Side Effects. This is the app that's used for high-end visual effects stuff. And I mean high-end Avengers-style galactic events, right? When the world is going to get destroyed, they turn to Houdini to do all of this work, right? Houdini is a very radical environment to work in. It turns the entire equation on its head. Houdini, and I'm not sure, let's see. I'm not going to go through all of this because you can go down a rabbit hole pretty fast. Let's see if there's, yeah. The thing that Houdini does better than any other app on the planet is deal with large data sets just quite wonderfully. The way they work is incredibly intense. I was hoping there'd be a screenshot of the app. Yeah, here we go. You can kind of see it a little bit here. I don't know if this is going to be. Okay, so this is their work environment over here in Houdini. Everything is nodal, okay? Everything's an operator, and you build your animations through these little chunks. We have a little bit of this inside of Blender. You've seen this in our shader graphs. It's very similar. It's also in our node section, our node workspace in Blender as well. You see this kind of the underpinnings of this. Houdini has always been in this space, right? They're the most developed in this environment. They have some really fantastic technology that allows them to simulate everything, and it really is just like the most amazing app on the face of the planet. Every summer, seemingly, I go, this is the summer I'm going to learn Houdini, and then life happens, and then I never get to it. It's an amazing bit of technology. The visual effects community is all in on Houdini because they allow us to build our animations procedurally. Now this is just some really great, here we go. So everything is a simulation in Houdini. Everything. That's what they are purpose built to do simulation technology. And it is wicked cool to see what they do. It's amazing the level of detail that they get into. So if you're into this work, definitely find your way into the Houdini community. It's a very active community. It's pretty ridiculous. It's incredibly complex, but the results are pretty amazing. So, now Blender touches on this, but Houdini, how can we describe this? Houdini is like the NFL, right? When it comes to visual effects work, simulated data, Houdini is kind of like, minor league somehow. Or Blender is kind of like minor league somehow. Yeah, it's top shelf stuff.
Do they import pre-made animations into the scene and then apply the physics to it, with the liquid effects? Or is it you have the animation made inside Houdini and the particle effects?
Both. You can do both. You can do a character animation and bring that in and then do all your sim data on top of that character animation, or you can do all that in here as well. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's expensive. It's expensive. It's wicked expensive, actually. It's made for studios, and all the big studios use it. It's the tool. for high-end visual effects, mostly because they can just work with massive data sets, right? You're not simulating just, like, this is where you go to simulate individual grains of sand on the beach. The water goes onto the beach. It moves all the grains of sand. Houdini is responsible for doing that. And you really can just like sit and watch it for a bit. It's kind of magical.
Blender on steroids.
Yeah, big time. And some of the things that you see in Houdini are like legit proprietary.
It's trees, but it's procedural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Side Effects is doing a pretty active push into the real-time world. All of their simulated effects, and they're really getting popular in cities because you can nodally create an entire city pretty fast with Houdini. Did you guys see the Matrix demo for Unreal Engine 5?
Yeah.
If you haven't, check it out. That's a really great example. The city was made with Houdini and then streamed into the Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I played on PlayStation 5. It
Yeah.
looked fantastic.
Yeah.
It's because I was watching a movie and I didn't realize
Yeah, they're not making like individual buildings by hand. They're building a window, a doorway, a portion of a wall, the crown molding, the a fire escape.
I saw all the interiors inside there. Yeah, it looks so good in there.
You
Yeah.
don't need hard surface modelers for anymore.
Yeah, and in big sets and environments, the hard surface modelers, they have a different role, right? You're not creating an entire asset, you're creating a whole bunch of little parts and pieces, and then the computer is nodally going in, procedurally taking all those parts and pieces and constructing an entire city out of it. City Engine is another cool app that's doing something very, very similar. I don't know what they're showcasing here, but it's light gobos, light filters, yeah. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I am a sucker for crowd sims. Not this, although that's very cool. I love crowd sims. I think it's so cool that they're actually simulating the movement of all these characters and they're not hitting each other.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because we're building a stadium or something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Houdini's always had some of the best hair and fur stuff out there on the face of the planet, because they really are simulating every strand of hair on this animal. It's not a trick with Houdini. A lot of apps, it's a trick, it's a magic trick. With Houdini, they're like, nope, we're actually going to simulate every strand of hair. And we're going to simulate how it falls and how it folds and how it curls and clumps and stuff. It's pretty neat. Yeah. Like this. Cool stuff. Definitely recommend them. I could sit here all day and just watch the sizzle reels from Houdini. We're not going to get into that. Larger point being, it's important to be aware of this as we grow our exposure and experience in the larger computer graphics industry. There's some other players out there that you need to be mindful of. Blender is a really good starting point, but there's other apps out there that are purpose-built, right? That do one thing, and they do that one thing better than anything else on the face of the planet. Houdini is a really great example of this. If you're really into learning and kind of being exposed a little bit more to the visual effects world, there's a lot of opportunity out there. If you think about the summer popcorn films that we see, all of them are visual effects films, right? It's amazing how much visual effects work needs to be done. There's a lot of opportunity. It's not just about Pixar, right? When you think about a Pixar film, these big, wonderful character animation films, those are almost kind of the smaller, portion of the pie when compared to visual effects films. Every film in the summer is going to be a visual effects film. We may get one character animated film, one Pixar style film, or maybe two. Actually, this summer we had like 3. I think we were kind of getting over that COVID clump. Everything came out this summer because people were going back to the theaters. Actually, we had a pretty good summer of animation, in all honesty. There's a number of things. I got my start in visual effects. Yeah. There's a lot of really cool opportunity in visual effects, so don't overlook it. Okay, so this week, now that our fun with physics is concluded, this week we're going to start talking about nonlinear animation. And this has a lot of really fantastic application across our entire industry. Nonlinear animation is all about creating clips or actions of saved animation movements, okay? Movements that we then can reuse and recycle over and over and over again. I mean, shoot, if you've taken animation too, you probably know and directly have loved and hated the process of reanimating someone's arm swinging forward and backwards, right? Well, maybe we animate it once and then we have a clip that repeats that portion over and over and over again. The applications of this are pretty far-reaching. They allow us to work very efficiently, and they allow our animations to flow into a number of other animation packages, especially into the real-time world. In every sense, we're going to kind of set it up in Blender this week, and then we're going to look at how we can take all of this over into a real-time rendering environment and see how those spaces can build and use the animation clips that we create here in Blender. In the modern day animation industry, you're almost always going to be making your animations in a direct content creation app. Blender, Maya, Modo, Houdini, and then you're going to be sending or streaming those animation clips over to be rendered in real time in a game engine. So it's going to start in a DCC and then it's going to end up over in our game engines at some point. You can animate some things in Unreal or Unity, but they're really not animation tools. If you've ever tried to animate anything in those spaces, you probably got really frustrated very quickly, and I feel you, because they're not the best animation tools. They are the best rendering tools. Our direct content creation apps do probably a much stronger job of working with all this animation in the animation workflow. So that's the kind of context of what we're doing. We're making small little clips that we can reuse and recycle in Blender, but then also incorporate into our games over in Unity and Unreal. Cool? You guys ready to rock and roll? Ready to see it in action a little bit? It's a whole lot of fun. We have two little missions that we're gonna strive to complete. We're going to return to our catapult, and I know you guys were asking about why are we doing the catapult again? Well, we're not necessarily doing the catapult again. We're doing animation clips for our catapults, and specifically, we're going to be making 3 animation clips that allow us to very quickly reuse and recycle maybe the catapult firing forward, another clip where we're reloading the catapult, and then some clips where the wheels are turning. These allow us to create kind of moments in time that we can recycle over and over and over again. So it's going to be during your lab. You're going to have some time in class today to work on that. In addition, we're also going to be doing a fun little animation, and this is I'm quite endeared by this one. CubeCopter. Yes, CubeCopter. I'm excited about CubeCopter, right? What? Very aerodynamic. You got it. This is going to be our playground for our homework this week. You're going to apply everything that you learned about animation clips and actions inside the creation of a small animation of our helicopter taking off, flying around the scene, and then hopefully landing successfully back on the landing pad at the origin of our three-dimensional scene. It should be pretty fun. It's going to continue to use these actions throughout the entire animation, and we'll talk more about this as we get closer to the end of class. Sound good? Everyone understanding the grand context of what it is that we're going to be exploring this week? I'm already struggling with animation, the word animation clips, and just about every other app on the face of the planet. Actions are called animation clips, so please use those interchangeably. If I say an animation clip, I'm actually meaning an animation action here in Blender. They are in part the exact same thing, so I apologize for if I'm stumbling over the terminology. Sometimes once learned, always learned. All right, we're going to begin with this file up here. So if you download this real fast, here's a little door, and it's going to be a nice little opportunity for us to explore in a very simple world how we can set up these animation clips so that they work. All right, so it's a pretty straightforward Blender project file, nothing too fancy, just a doorway. or it should just be a doorway. Excuse me for a moment. There we go. Yeah, the reason it's doing that, and I apologize if yours was that solid color that you saw on my screen, it's because I built this in version 3.3, and then we're working on version 3. If you just select the object, hit the Tab key to go into edit mode, and then hit the Tab key once again to go back into object mode, it'll recalculate all the surface normals of your polygons, and you'll be up and running. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be our little playground for the day, and we're going to be just building a couple animation clips to open and close these doors, okay? Something like a door opening and closing both in an animation and especially in a video game, we want to try to make as simple as we can. Door opening and closing should not be this huge Herculean challenge to make work in a video game. An animation clip or an action will help kind of expedite this process. We animate it once, and then we recycle and activate that animation clip or action as many times as we need, right? So let's go ahead and start the setup of this. It's pretty straightforward. If you look at the location of all of the center points for these, yep, the doors are not swinging where I want them to swing. So let's just kind of figure this out real fast where we want all this to go. Some simple setup here will make it pretty fast. Let's see. I think I'm going to put my door hinge kind of in the middle of that polygon right there, that boundary. This door doesn't have any modeled hinges, so we'll pretend and shoot. We'll even make it a little bit more accurate. We'll put it on the back edge of that polygon, so maybe it'll actually hinge in the right direction. So Shift S, cursor to selected. I'm going to jump back into object mode. Object set origin, origin to 3D cursor, and now, yeah, it's hinging where I want it to go. And shoot, while I'm here, let's just take this and apply all these changes to our transforms. Apply, and specifically all the transforms to our deltas. Since we're in this world, let's just do the exact same thing on the other door real fast. Luckily, it just takes a second. Same thing. The cursor is just such a wonderful interactive tool for us. And we'll set the origin to the 3D cursor and apply all the transforms. Now that we're getting a whole lot more experience working with this Apply Transforms menu, did anyone stumble upon the keyboard shortcut that makes it fast to get into this area? Applying our transforms is something that we're going to be doing all the time. It's kind of one of those big things for us. So here's kind of a great little keyboard shortcut. It's Control A. And it's going to pop up that Apply menu right underneath your cursor. And then inside of this, check it out. Yeah.
The pie menus don't have that.
The pie menus, yeah. All transforms to deltas. Boom, now we're up and running. And our doors work. Let's just test it real fast. Alt-H to unhide everything. I always like to test it. Yep, and that swings the way I want. That swings the way I want. Life is good. Okay, so we've set up the scene to operate the way we want it. Let's make it easy to open and close these doors. By using actions, we're creating a very intelligent animation system that, of course, we can use in a real-time rendering engine like Unity or Unreal, and inside a Blender using what's called the nonlinear editing track, okay, the track editor. We're really getting into this nonlinear editor, track editor here in a minute. It's pretty neat. All right, let's go ahead and do it real fast. I'm going to jump over into my animation workspace. And this is where it's going to get a little bit crowded, and I apologize. It's crowded for a couple reasons, okay? It's important that we understand the relationship between the action editor and our dope sheet very directly. There's actually three areas that we're going to be doing our work in this week. We're going to be looking at, of course, our traditional dope sheet down here, the action editor, and then the nonlinear track editor. So three environments that are probably likely going to be all stacked on top of each other to make our workflow a little bit easier. I apologize. I know on these little screens we We can lose a little bit of real estate, and I apologize, but we'll try to make it as easy as we can. So we're going to be separating this area down over here, okay? And before we go into this, we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about interface customization. Question? Are you guys good? I don't want to go continue on unless we're...
No, fine.
Yeah? Okay. We haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about interface customization. We need to add some panels into this environment to make this work. All these cool tools are kind of hidden inside some panels. I want to make sure that you're aware of the impact of these two buttons, okay? And this is a Blender thing. This is an application-wide little kind of idea here. These two buttons are going to load in specific areas of our interface, okay? We're going to start with this one. This one is going to allow us to change the contents of this panel, of this entire area, okay? And if you look at it, you may have seen this before. These are all the different panels and editors that we can bring into this current interface panel. There's a lot in here, okay? It can be overwhelming at first, especially if you don't know what you're looking for. Please note that the developers over at Blender have done a really great job of categorizing them. And all the animation ones are in this row here, or this column here in the middle, okay? For the most part, you're going to be hanging out in these two. We're going to be hanging out in this one today. And this is an application-wide thing. If you go into any editor inside or any window inside of Blender, you're going to see that icon. Here it is again. The icon that's loaded in is a representation of the panel or the editor that's in this panel. There's a 3D viewport. I can go image editor on that one. So this button is always going to be movie clip editor, how we change all the different editors into these panels, okay? We have a high degree of customization in Blender, and it all begins with this button right here. Now, we're currently looking at the dope sheet, okay, which is right here inside of our list. If you've ever been curious what the difference, some people think, isn't the dope sheet and this play bar at the bottom of the screen the same thing? Nope, it's not. This is the dope sheet. This is where we see keyframes and edit the location of the keyframes in time. And then we also have the playback editor, which is home to the play, pause, rewind buttons. Two different things. They're actually disconnected from each other. Now, the dope sheet is a really important editor for us animators because it has a whole series of sub-editors inside of it. We're currently looking at the larger dope sheet framework, but then check it out. We have a whole bunch of other stuff that's inside the dope sheet, including action editor. We're going to see that here in a minute. Shape keys. This is a really neat addition if you're doing faces. Shape keys have a big role in animating faces. If you've taken the 2D animation class, the grease pencil editor is something that we're accustomed to seeing. We have some masking stuff that I've never really experimented too much around in Blender. And this is going to show us all of the cached information that's saved in our timeline. So the dope sheet has a lot of stuff in here. We're going to use the dope sheet pretty actively. But to get us going here with our little animation, we want to have the dope sheet and maybe a couple others as well. Let's go ahead and do it real fast. We're going to split this window downstairs into a whole series of horizontal pieces. And there are some keyboard shortcuts that allow you to do this. It's generally pretty frustrating customizing the interface because it requires you to be pixel accurate. There's like literally one pixel that you have to left click and drag on to change the layout. Here's the easy way of doing this, and I recommend that you do this as often as you can. If you were just to simply right click in this area right here, there you go, split vertical and split horizontal, okay? We're going to do split horizontal, and that's going to bring this line. This is going to tell you where you're going to split this panel into two, okay? So now we have two different panels. We're going to have the dope sheet on the bottom, and on the top, we're going to stay in the dope sheet, but we're going to look at the action editor. Ta-da! Okay. The action editor is where we're going to be managing all of our actions, our animation clips. Okay. It's got a pretty similar work environment. You're going to see that there's some new bits in here. This push down and stash. This is where we're going to be doing a lot of our initial creation right in here. Okay, so let's get to work and create some actions. All right, so we're gonna have an action for each one of our doors. Okay, we're gonna have it kind of open. Question? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Has split, yeah. So if you put your cursor right there, just right click, split horizontal, split vertical. Yeah, no worries. All right. So I'm going to create an animation where my door's open and maybe my door's closed, right? Each one of our animation actions or animation clips is going to be assigned to a very specific object within inside of our scene. Okay? So remember that. These are tied to objects. Okay? We have two objects that are going to be animating, opening and closing. Okay? So let's get that going. Now, you've actually been working with animation clips or animation actions since day one in here. You just haven't really been made aware of it. We haven't really needed to be aware of it. Whenever you make any animation, it's actually being stored in a specific data container, which is called an action. All animations in Blender are initially assigned to a data container. We're going to have multiple data containers, which is where actions start to come in to play a little bit. Let's do it real fast. Let's animate this. This is going to be a wicked easy animation of the door opening and closing. Let's see. Rotation Z is the one that we're going to be working with. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn on my auto key system. Blink. Then on frame 1, I'm going to key in, was it rotation Z? Yeah, we'll key in rotation Z. And then I'm just going to go forward, I don't know, a second to frame 24, and I don't know, how far do I want them to open? That'll do. Why not? 100 degrees. Why not? They just open. Here, we'll go a little bit further. Make it feel all fancy. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, cool. Now, I want you to be very mindful because the moment that we added some keyframes into this object, the animation action became populated. The computer started saving data into these data containers. The action editor is going to show us that data container right there. Okay? Front door left action, right? Front door left, that was the name of the actual object itself. And then action is just the default word and default name of the container that was created for us. Let's make it a little bit more direct. Open. Ta-da! Okay, cool. We can see our keyframes in the action editor. Shoot, we can even play it. Whoop, there it goes. Cool. Let's do the exact same thing on the other door. Okay? Since we're opening it, let's do the exact same thing. Keyframe it here on 1, go forward to frame 24, and I really don't remember off the top of my head what the angle was, so I'll just kind of make it up. Something like that. I could be exact and make it perfect, but you know what? That's not going to happen on Friday. And since I had the auto key system on, everything is opening and closing. Now this is all well and good, but we want to start using these animation clips and these actions a little bit more intuitively. We want to be able to recycle them over and over again. Perhaps this is a game, and of course in a game we're going to be going in and out of these doors all the time, right? Maybe in the context of this animation, we're going to be needing to open the doors all the time. So having them saved in these little clips is super helpful, and it makes it efficient. Before we go into the next part, I want to just show you how the data of all of this is flowing together, because these are little packets of information that the computer's hanging on to. We haven't really needed to worry about this up until now. Well, today we're going to worry about it just a little bit, okay? So check it out. here's the right door. If we were to twirl it open, here's that animation section, but aha, look at this little icon. Okay? There's the actual animation action itself. That's the data container. Okay? These data containers, and I didn't rename it, so let's do this. These data containers are little packets of keyframed information. There we go. This other one has the exact same thing. This is the left door. Ta-da! We have two animation actions that were created inside of us. Now, these aren't the only places these animation clips show up inside of our interface. Once they're a part of our scene, they're kind of in there, right? They become a member of the larger scene file itself. I'm going to open up Pandora's box to a certain degree, but it's really important that you start to understand how the back end of this entire gigantic database of information truly works. This outliner is a really simple collection of data inside of our Blender project file. It's not actually a representation of everything that's inside of our scene file. It's actually a very, very, very truncated, smaller view. We're looking at just a collection of data, collection of objects and their corresponding data. However, if we were to go into that icon, we can see all of the data that's included inside the entire Blender project file. And this is everything, right? These little, there we go. Check it out. Here's everything that's currently included in our Blender project file, right? Our Blender project files can be quite big, and they really are a gigantic library of small and, well, sometimes very large data containers, of which, here it is, there's the actions right there at the top, okay? So they're stored in the Blender project file, and then they're attached to an object, a specific object. You can, in certain situations, take the animation clip of one object and automatically perhaps, apply it to a different object. Since it is just keyframed information, it doesn't have any true connection to the parent polygons. It's just looking at the object transform channels, right? The object data channels is all that's really moving when it comes to the animation of our elements. We're never really animating a vert, right? Even with characters, right? We're not really animating the deformation of our characters. We're animating the armature, which is an object, and then verts and polygons kind of get pushed and pulled based off of the movement of that object. All right. This is super helpful to see what's inside of your Blender project file. I find it incredibly useful when managing material libraries and animation actions and just kind of generally understanding what's in here. Because sometimes, well, there's a lot. And sometimes it's nice just to see everything all in once. This isn't a really super hot work environment, though, because it's just truly a list of all the different objects and their corresponding data. Let's go back into the view layer. That's what this is called. And yeah, we can have multiple view layers that view different collections of objects and their corresponding data containers as well. You can see how deep this rabbit hole goes, right? I mean, the level of customization inside of Blender is high. We're not going to go into that because I know it can get really deep and super contextual pretty fast. All right, so let's continue to work with these data containers, or these animation actions, excuse me. Having one animation for each door, that's cool, right? That's really not any different than what we've had so far, right? Let's make another one. We've opened the doors. Let's have a separate action that closes the doors, right? All right, so let's grab this one over here. And this is where truly the action editor starts to shine a little bit, because it allows us to do some really important work, okay? This part of our interface, this part of our interface is super important when working with actions. We're going to see this push down button in play here in a minute, so we're going to come back to that. But this stash has an important role for us, okay? This stash is going to take the keyframes that are currently in the dope sheet and kind of save them in a folder somewhere. It's going to save all of that keyframe data inside the action itself. If I was to play my timeline, notice that I have in my dope sheet, I have keyframes. Since there's keyframes in the dope sheet's the primary driver of all animations, right? It's going to read the dope sheet first. Playing the animation right now is just going to open the doors, okay? Until we stash this animation action kind of in the library, okay? Let's do it real fast. Let's stash it. And now it looks as though we should be in panic mode. We're like, oh my gosh, all my animations are gone because all the keyframes are gone, but they're not. Okay, they're not gone. They've just been stashed. They've been saved, right? They're just like, oh, they're put in a back pocket for a moment. Okay, it is still all there. It's still in that animation action. If we return to this icon, check it out. There's our clip. Shoot, you're working on the right door, left door, left door. There we go. I forgot which door we were on. But if I go back to that animation clip, ha ha ha, what's back, right? All that information is still there. We need to stash it to get those keyframes off of the dope sheet so that we can continue building the other animations, okay? You'll see this in action here again when we start working with the nonlinear track editor too. All right, let's stash that. And let's start. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna load that one back in because we're gonna make an animation. We're gonna make a new animation clip where the doors close. Okay. And I didn't write down and/or remember what that final value was. 145. Okay, I'm gonna remember that because I want to have the doors be in the exact same location with the close movement. That way, there's not like a kind of weird jerk in there. All right, let's stash it, 145 degrees on that one. Oh, look at that. It just kept it there. That word, thank you, Blender. That makes my life a whole lot easier. Because now I'm going to keyframe this once again. I'm going to make a new clip. A new action. Let's give it a good name. This is door left close. And as one might imagine, let's get this working here. So we're going to keyframe that guy, move forward to, I think it was 24 frames. Put it to 0. Let's just test it, make sure it's working. That's a wonderful animation, by the way. Dun, 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 dun. I can do that all day. Okay, cool. So there we go. That works, okay? Now, much like we did before, we need to stash this animation. We need to save it inside our project file. Because whatever's in the timeline is going to influence our objects, okay? Let's do the exact same thing for the other guy. This is front door open right. Let's stash it. We'll make a new one. Front door right close. Negative 160 is the value that we're going to begin on. Keyframe that in. Go forward about a second, 24 frames. We'll put this to 0, and now the door's closed. Cool. Now, why isn't that other door moving? Yeah. Oh, I stashed the other door. The one that's not moving is currently been saved into our library, so it's just not static. It doesn't have keyframes in the dope sheet anymore. So it's not moving because the dope sheet is kind of the master of this. If you see keyframes in the dope sheet in the action editor, that's what's currently being played, okay? We're creating animations, saving and stashing them into our library, and then we're going to recall them and activate them at certain points during our timeline. Yeah? Feeling it? Was everyone able to make these animation clips on their computer? You got it. So at the end of this process, you should have 4 animation actions. Each door is opening and closing. And I keep coming back to this just because it's a really easy way to see a list of all 4 of them. Because these are broken up and applied to separate objects at the moment, and just kind of turns into a visual nightmare if I go into each individual object, expand it on the hierarchy, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. All right, let's stash this guy and get to work. All right, I want to put both my objects back down to their resting pose. Luckily for us, it's just zeroing out the rotation. We're up and running. All right, now let's do something with all these animation actions. Having them is cool, but we want to be able to use them in a pretty intuitive workspace, okay? That workspace, once again, make my interface smaller, I apologize. This workspace is called the nonlinear track editor, okay? This is its own panel inside of our interface. Let's once again split horizontally. We'll leave the middle one, the action editor, and we're going to transform the top one into the nonlinear track editor. Excuse me. And it's right there. Let's load it in real fast. Take a look, see what it looks like. I'm going to spread this out a little bit here. All right. So, welcome to your new home away from home. The nonlinear track editor is kind of like a timeline that you'd see in like Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro or iMovie. It really is a nonlinear track environment, but for animation actions. Okay. If you look at the way that it's constructed, it's not too dissimilar. Okay, from our dope sheet, our graph editor, and our action editor. The more important things that I want you to know is that it has the exact same filter by selection icon. Right now in my nonlinear track editor, it's off, so I'm seeing all the objects that currently have tracks on them. Okay? Be mindful of that. This is going to stump you if you're not aware, because if you have this on and you open it up, you're like, where's all my stuff, man? That's not cool. It's there, but it's filtering the track editor by selection. If I was to grab the door, then I'd see just that door's tracks and its corresponding animation clips, so on and so forth. Okay? All right. Let's focus in on one. This is the right one. Okay, and let's talk about how this is going to work. Okay, so it's actually a pretty easy environment for us to work in. Our nonlinear track editor is built with a whole series of vertical rows. You can see that each one of our each one of our actions has been automatically stashed on its own track. Okay. At the moment, they're both inside of the clip. We can remove these if we wanted to. The track editor uses the exact same global keyboard shortcuts that we're used to seeing in all other areas of Blender. So if I wanted to, apologies. If I wanted to, I could just left click and drag and move these things around. I can't at the moment because of their... you can also hit the X key. Oh, they're locked. That's why, excuse me. I was like, what is going on? There we go. They're locked. You can grab them around. We're just moving them left and right in time. Okay? If you wanted to delete one, the X key is going to be the keyboard shortcut to delete the track. Now, you're not actually deleting the actual animation action itself. That was open, right? Check it out. If we go back into our actions, you can see that all four of them are still there. So you're not physically removing them from the scene file. You're just removing them from the track. In addition to removing and deleting the individual actions, you can work and delete the actual tracks themselves. All of our actions need to be in a track in order for them to play inside of our timeline. So keep that in mind. You have to have these gray ones. Each one of these tracks has the ability to activate and deactivate their visibility. And as you saw me stumbling earlier, you can also lock them, which will prevent you from doing anything to them. All right, let's get rid of this track here. This is the only part of the interface that you need to be super, super mindful where your mouse cursor is. Blender has a magic mouse cursor, right? It is context sensitive. The keyboard commands are definitely tied to the location of your mouse cursor. With my mouse cursor over here, the X key will delete a track, right? If my mouse cursor was over here, it's going to delete the action clip. So over here, hit the X key, bye-bye. over here, hit the X key, bye-bye. Okay? All right. So let's get to work. Now we have this one as well. This is kind of like a temporary holding ground. And you'll see this in play here in a minute. These gray ones are really where all of the actions are going to be placed. Okay. So I've deleted everything from that track. Let's get them back in. So I want to be able to add these actions back into my timeline pretty easily. How have we added stuff in Blender before? Shift A, right? That add pull down menu at the top of the screen is going to get us where we want to go. Okay? We can add an action strip, which is going to bring open the list of current actions that are saved in our Blender project file. Rock and roll. Thomas so directly pointed out wonderfully. Shift A is also going to, this time you got to make sure the track is selected. Shift A is also going to do the exact same thing. Kind of saves you a click. Going to get you right into that same menu. Already forgotten. Is this the left or the right door? This is the right door. Okay. I want to make sure I'm putting the right clip. All right, so front right door open. It's going to be placed at the location of your playhead, just FYI. If my playhead was over here and I did something else, see how it goes at the location of your playhead. So be mindful of that blue line. You're going to add stuff in. All right. And then look at that. Ha ha ha. It opens and closes, right? All those keyframes that we stashed and saved inside the action are now being recalled in the track editor, okay? So I can play this, I can open it. And what do I need to have? At some point, probably need to close it, right? Let's go ahead and close it real fast. So with this selected, Shift A, excuse me. Got to make sure your cursor's over here. Frame 60. Shift A. This is right close. See? Cool, huh? Opens, wait a couple seconds, and close. Everyone make this work on your machine. Do this real fast. The best way to learn this is to kind of get your hands dirty with it. Experiment and explore. Any question?
For this one, I actually changed this and renamed this to like door open, and this one still had this on this one. And when I actually try doing this, it stays like that.
Yeah, yours is a little bit different, okay? Because you have two different tracks going simultaneously. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to on this door, I want you to get rid of all 4 of those and rebuild them.
Okay.
Jump back. Yeah, there you go.
So I just have to stash or just
Shift A.
right. Okay. Right, door open.
There you go. Ta-da. Now go forward in time. No, put it on the bottom track.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Close.
Ta-da. Cool, huh?
Okay.
We're going to talk about the challenges with having multiple tracks here in a moment, so we'll cycle back and specifically address that issue in a minute. Yeah, Sophia, what you got?
I don't know if I did something wrong or like, cause it's not. And then I tried deleting it, and then it still wasn't working, and then.
Let's figure this out. So let's do this. Let's see the actual animation clips themselves by loading it in the action editor. The button to your left.
This one or this one?
That one right there. So let's do close door left. Okay? Yeah. All right, good. So that's good. That's what we're after, right? Let's dash it. There you go. Cool. Let's try this, and I think I know what's going on. Let's delete all these clips real fast. There you go. Let's get rid of that one too, just for good measure. And then on this first track, yeah, let's do Shift A. And then what? We're going to open it. What's this? The left door. I'm going to guess it's probably that one. Let's give it a try. Front door. Well, let's check it out. Front door left action. Let's load it here and see. Oops, that was a new clip. Yeah, that's the one right there. This allows us to see front door left action. Okay, cool. Right. I think I see what's going on. Hit the stop button real fast, or hit the back button to put your playhead back at the beginning of the animation. And let's stash this animation again. Cool.
So delete it from here too? Or?
Play your animation now. I'm kind of curious to see what's going on. Why is it not going?
But down there, I think I saw it say animation stashed or something. I don't know.
Okay, that's a good thing. Let's delete it here. Oh, you had that track off. That's why it wasn't. Yeah,
You have to have those clicked?
yeah. Got to have it on. Let's get it back in there. I bet you now we see it. Yep, I think that was it, right? Ah, great. Yeah, put all of the animations on this one track. We're going to talk about 2 tracks here in a minute. Okay? Yep. Yeah, what you got? Same thing. Your track is off at the moment.
Okay. So there's shift A now and
Select the track. Now put your, now do it. No active track. Oh, it's locked. I'm sorry. Didn't see that it was locked before. Ta-da!
so wait.
Play it forward, and then it closes.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
You got it. Yes, of course.
I'm not sure what's wrong with this, but I went to add the clips to the track.
Yep.
I'm not sure what's.
It's currently off. Hit that little square. Turn that layer on. Yeah. I think it does that when you stash it the first time. It's like, I'm going to put this temporarily in the library, but not have it active. So,
Okay. I didn't
Yep.
know that. Thank you.
yep. Never press the big red button.
They always
That's like number 1 rule. The easy button.
Wait, are we talking about Men in Black? The movie Men in Black? Don't hit the big red button? Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
It's like a general trope rule of whenever you see a big red button, you're usually told not to push the button.
Right? And someone did a social experiment on that once, I remember seeing. They just put like a big red button just to see if people would do it. And I don't remember the outcome of it. I think more often than not, people are like, yeah, I'm going to press the button.
Would you press the button?
I think I would, actually.
There's actually a website called
I was gonna ask, how come it had like NLA track?
Yeah, that stands for nonlinear animation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is I supposed to have it only on a single, or?
This is fine. Yeah, you can have as many tracks as you want. Right now, all your animations are on the same track. We're going to talk about how to deal with 2 tracks here in a minute. Yeah, what you got? Excuse me. All right, what we got? Hit the tab key. You're in edit mode. There we go. Or actually, oh no, you changed your interface. Hit tab key again. Yeah, you changed your interface colors so that everything's green.
Actually, I didn't. It was like this when I got on here.
Oh, okay. You can change it back if you'd like, but you don't have to. Anyways, what's the problem?
Something weird keeps happening.
Okay. Let's see.
Now they're opening in opposite directions.
Okay. Let's see if we can figure this out.
And I try to add the close to the right, but it won't let me add it.
Okay. Well, that on your right. Let's do this. On the right one, it's locked. Yeah. Now you can get rid of it. Get rid of the action. Bye bye. Cool. Cool.
And then open it, and then
Well,
close
but before we go any further, let's play it and make sure it's working. Okay, cool. Keep going. Now, if you were to add the close action,
Would it be right here?
we want it to be there, so what do we need to do? There you go. You got it.
All right, let's see. And it ain't closing.
Okay. See what's going on. and both of them don't close. Ah, something's not stashed. It's because we have keyframes down here. Here, stash that. Yeah, because if there's anything down in the action editor or the timeline, that's okay. Now we know what's going on, right? It was the timeline that was messing us up. Let's go back to the beginning and we'll see what the problem is.
Okay.
Yeah, let's check it out. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's break this down.
So what do I do?
Oh, just put your playhead on frame 1. Okay, so it looks like it's left door is nailing it, right? Because it opens backwards and then it closes. Okay, so we know that really the issue is the right door. Let's figure out that right door. Because the left one's swinging back, the right one's swinging forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's nuke all of these. Let's delete all of the right door clips. No. The right door clips.
Oh.
There we go. Okay, now let's rebuild it. Let's rebuild it.
Oh, there's one.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Well, that would explain it. Yeah, that'll do it. Get rid of that one.
Okay.
Now, is there any movement on the right door? Uh-oh. Let's figure this out.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Why?
Let's figure it out. Now we have left door open 1. Is it that one? Let's see. Yeah, let's see what happens here. Okay. All right.
Chihuahua.
Okay. If we were to turn off that layer, what would happen? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that is very weird.
Click on that right door. What are we seeing down here? Keyframes. Yeah, that's the problem. Stash it. Yeah.
This is all so new.
That's okay. That's why we're practicing it. It's new for everyone. It's new for everyone. Okay. Now let's build the right door. Now look what happened, and I don't know why this happened. It could be a naming convention thing. Get front door left open. Let's delete that. Okay. Yep. Delete that. Turn. Which animation track are you going to load on the right door? Which one are we going to load our action? Stay on the right door. Yeah, let's stay here.
Right, left.
Yep. Okay. We'll figure out that I know what's going on with the door opening and closing. We can manage that. I want us to get the right door working first. Okay. So the top door. Don't worry about the bottom ones. Let's focus on the ones on the top, right here, right? Click on Action Stash. That guy. Yeah, there you go. And can I make a suggestion? Let's change the colors of our interface.
How exactly do I do that?
Super
Like
easy.
I said, I don't.
Super easy. Edit, preferences, bottomless one, and then in here, I think it's themes. Presets in the middle. I think. Yeah. Click on that and do Blender Dark. Okay, here we go. Back now, we're getting the right colors again, right? And I think this is going to help because look how we can see the differences. Okay. All right.
I don't know how the person who sat here did that. It was during our last animation class.
That's okay. That's okay. Now we know how to fix it. All right, so with Action Stash selected, and it's orange now, which is cool, click on Action Stash, that one. That's the name of the track. And with your cursor in your timeline, hit Shift A. We'll load in a clip. So this is what? Door right open. Okay, play it. Oh, okay, good. Keep going. Right close. Yeah, it worked. Okay, now the reason why this is not working down here is actually, so we're going to talk about this together as a class. Left click. Oh, this track is off. Yeah, play it now. Ta-da.
Oh, thank God.
There we go.
I was going nuts.
No, you're not going nuts. The first 2 or 3 times is going to be, we're learning a new environment. So you're doing great, though. You're doing great. And with the cube copter. All right, how we doing? Everyone getting it? Yeah? Everyone getting it? Question? Yeah.
How do you delete action clips? Excuse me.
Yeah.
These over here.
Load it in. So
Okay, just
click on it, and then that X is going to go. Now it's gone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Alrighty, folks, let's get back together real fast. I'm really pleased and quite happy that you guys are generally kind of getting it, which is cool, right? Can you guys start to see the power of this a little bit? Now, where can we use this? I mean, opening and closing doors and making a catapult, that's one thing, right? But let's take this and extrapolate a little bit more. Where could we really use this? Walk cycle. Sometimes it's the little things. Yeah, you animate a blink once, and then you call that clip whenever you want it, right? Another thing that action clips are used all over the place. Right? Breathing, you animate a breath once, and then you just call that clip over and over and over again, right? Hand movements, facial expressions. Yeah. You got it. You got it. Facial expressions are a big one. Instead of having to hand animate each little syllable, you make a whole bunch of clips and then call those clips at very specific times. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Sometimes like little things like hand animations. Just like, oh, I want to close my fist, right? Accessing an animation clip, an action, is a whole lot easier than having to go in and hand animate that 1,000 times. Like blinks and breaths. Yeah. I have literally had directors come in and say, I don't want the blink in that moment. And I go, all right, give me 2 days because I have to completely go back in and reanimate all of my keyframes, because just deleting a couple keyframes can have huge ramifications on the total timeline if you're doing this with straight up traditional keyframes, right? But with animation actions and clips, you're like, cool, no problem. I'm just going to delete the clip or move it to a different spot. We're up and running, okay? So this has some pretty neat ramifications inside the larger animation workflow. I want to chat real fast before we jump into the catapult on how we can use multiple tracks, because this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, okay? Some common things, and this is just kind of a Blender quirk, and I apologize for this. I think even I stumbled upon this. When you stash your animation actions, of course it's going to go into one of these tracks. And you can name these tracks whatever they want. This is just the Blender convention. You just click on it, and you're like, I don't know, what is this? Whatever. Door. Or door. There we go. Okay. But make sure this is going to activate and deactivate the entire track. Okay? Right now, I have 2 clips, 2 actions on that one track. With it off, nothing happens. With it on, now I get my movements. Okay? In addition, when you create and stash your animation actions, it's going to lock the clip, or lock the track, excuse me. So just keep your eyeballs on these two icons. They have big ramifications across our ability to do this. Okay, so I want to start chatting real fast about having multiple tracks, because this is where the power of this kind of truly comes in, because we can create some really neat effects quickly when we're working with multiple tracks. However, there's an important idea that we need to talk about. Okay, so I'm going to create a new track, and I'm going to put this guy on its own track, and you'll see why here in a moment. Okay, let's do it real fast. So I'm going to put my cursor over here, Shift A, or excuse me, add tracks, add. Oh, you got to have them selected first, and then I always forget that. Yeah, you gotta have the track selected and then you can add it in there. The Shift A keyboard shortcut works the same thing. I always forget that you gotta have it selected, then Shift A will pop in a new track for you, or you can do the add tracks thing. So Blender quirk. With 2 tracks, now we can start moving these around to different locations. The order in which they appear inside the track system is important, okay? It's going to start with the top track, and then it's going to evaluate everything underneath. So it goes from the top downwards. Let me show you what this looks like, okay? I'm going to put my first animation action on top, and then I want to put this other one kind of underneath it like that. As we do this, you can kind of see the order of operations here. I want you to be very, very mindful. Let's play the animation as is, and then we'll take a look at something we need to be very careful on. So it's supposed to open, and then it's going to close. It opens, and then it doesn't close, even though we should be seeing, you know, the close animation right there. It's because 2 things. It is overlapping, but having them separated onto different tracks now starts to expose another consideration that we need to hold for working with nonlinear tracks. And if the Blender developers were standing right here, I would say you need to make this a little bit more obvious, okay? If you look at each row, you see the animation clip, and then on this side, see how that dark bar continues to the right, okay? That dark bar on the row is an important interface kind of reminder of a setting on the clip. We are holding this clip's end state, so its last keyframe, we are holding it indefinitely, okay? That's what this dark bar right here represents, and the default state for all animation actions is to hold their end value, that last keyframe, forever, okay? Which is why we're not seeing that close door animation. So we're seeing all of it open, and then once it gets that last frame right there, boom, it's holding that value, but it's no longer, you know, kind of seeing this down here, okay? The big wide view, you can kind of see the results of this. I always like to click on the clips, because then you get a nice highlighted view of what this clip or how this clip is influencing our timeline. You can see that, of course, we have the action clip here selected, but look at all this. This kind of light orange bar is also highlighted, kind of showing us that we're holding this animation, right? What we can do is that we can change this value, change this setting, and this brings up a very cool part of our interface. If you don't have this little popover on the right there, hit the N key. N as in November, okay? N is in November. It's going to pop out a critical part of our NLA editor environment. I want to make these 2 smaller. There we go. Okay. This little part here is going to bring some super important settings. Now, where we want to go is into the strip section, because this is going to give us access to all the kind of customization values that we can do at the strip level, at the action level, okay? Yeah, so you got to make sure it's selected. Make sure that your action is selected. If nothing's going to be there, if you don't have anything selected, ain't nothing going to show up. So we're going to go into the middle section. Specifically, this extrapolation is the value we want to change, or we might want to experiment with. Right now, and this is the default value for all animation actions inside of Blender, it's set to hold. So it's going to hold that last keyframe value indefinitely, okay? However, we have some choices in here. Hold forward, and then nothing. Hold forward is an interesting one. We'll come back and talk about that here in a minute, okay? But if we change it to nothing, watch what happens. And I zoomed out, and I want to just draw your attention here. I'm working on this animation action. I have it selected. You can see its orange bar going all the way to the right. When I change this extrapolation value to nothing, see how it changes on the timeline? that orange bar kind of disappears. In addition, if I didn't have it selected, I want you to compare and contrast the top one to the bottom one. There's no black bar either. Okay? There's no black bar. And now it opens all the way, and then when it gets to right there, it jumps. It jumps. It's playing that second action wherever it is. Okay?
What if there was nothing under, like if you moved the lower track all to the right and then played from the start?
Like right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it snaps back.
Yeah. And this is where hold forward really comes into play. So you might want to experiment, if you're working on 2 tracks, this hold and nothing value is super important. Because if we're holding it indefinitely, it's going to block anything that's above or below it. So super critical. If it's all on one line, then that hold value actually has a nice little value to us. Let's change it back to hold. This is what we were having before. Because now it's going to be open, it's going to hold that, and then it's going to close it. Okay? All right. Now these clip settings, I'm going to get rid of this out in here, are actually pretty neat. Because these clip properties, these animation action clip properties, has some power in here. And this is where it gets to be a tremendous amount of fun. Check this action out. Hopefully, if you started to explore your clip properties here, you will have found and discovered some natural things. Let's put this back to nothing. Blending is a cool one. We're replacing the current animation with whatever's in the clip. We could also combine it. So we could have 2 clips going at the same time, right? For example, in the context of the blink and the breath, okay? I want to combine my blink with whatever movement's going on in the head. I don't want to replace that movement, right? This one is kind of super contextual. It really kind of determines the situation that you're using these animation clips in, but we can combine clips together, which is pretty neat. We can also blend them together, which is kind of neat. And this is a, let's do this. Let's put, this is right, close, there we go. We can blend them together, kind of do like a crossfade, a cross dissolve, if you will. You can manually do it by doing values in here, or you just do this. This is pretty neat, the auto blend in and out. If I was to do this, you can see how we're getting that little diagonal line. That's kind of showing a cross dissolve between these animations. Now the top one is set to, I need to combine, instead of replacing, let's do combine. And now we should see a little bit of both at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, in this particular moment, it completely broke it. This is not a great example, but it is nice that you can blend the start and stops of all of this, okay? Huh? Okay. So these are in here to be, just check this stuff out. There's some really important things. The extrapolation is definitely something we have to change. That's something that's a must-have if we're working with multiple animation tracks. How we blend is really kind of neat. But there's also kind of this, too. Didn't have to make 2. And this kind of speaks to the power of the system itself. I can reverse the animation clips, okay? Just by click on this thing here. Now I have, this is the door opens, okay? That's the door open clip. I'm not holding it, by the way. Let me hold it. See how it opens? But if I was to reverse it, I can close it. Cool, huh? So let's rebuild this exact same example with one animation clip and adjusting its properties, okay? All right. So at the moment, we just have one animation clip. Now, if I was just to do Shift-D, I certainly could make a duplicate of this, That works, okay? That works. It also adds an action, though. Okay? When you duplicate an action in your timeline, you're actually creating an entirely new animation action, okay? I don't want that. I want to have just one, right? I want to have just kind of duplicates of the exact same animation clip versus new ones, okay? I'm going to go back in time, hit undo. There we go. Now my actions are back down to 4. And here's how you do it. Linked duplicates. So Alt-D, or Alt, is that Control? I can never remember. I always do it through the menu. Linked duplicate. Okay. Here, I'm going to put it right there. Alt-D, yeah. You got it. Yeah, we're kind of making an instance of this animation clip. If you look at our scene data, we still only have 4. We don't have 5 that we had before, so just the original 4. But on this other one, now I don't want the door opening twice. That's fun. It's swirling around. Let's reverse it. Opens, wait, yeah. And let's turn our holds to nothing. We'll put them on the same timeline too. That'll make it easy. Because then we can actually hold it. Now we open, and then we close it. Thanks to the reverse, right? We have one animation clip that we then can reverse back and forth. That's pretty neat. Okay, so we're going to pretend here for a moment. We're going to pretend for a moment that my art director has come in, or my sequence supervisor has come in and says, Pat, I love the animation, but I want this to be epic. The king or the queen, whomever, the knight, the princess, it does not matter. The dragon is going to make an epic entrance into the castle, and I want to have a slow-moving door instead of a fast-moving door. And without animation actions, I go, oh, man. Hold on a second, let me go back to my timeline and reanimate this. But with animation actions, we have a cool addition that we can do to make this slower. We can speed and slow down our animations. So once again, it's in the strip properties, okay? And what we're going to go, or where we're going to go, excuse me, is under strip time. Now is not strip time, and I always do this. It's action clip. It's playback scale. I apologize. My brain immediately wants to go to time to make things, to adjust time, but it's playback scale. This is going to allow us to make it go faster or slower. So right now, it's a 24-frame animation. If I was to put this to 2, boom, check it out. We even get a nice visualization. Okay.
There's also the frame start and end.
Frame start, and that's a little,
Change the duration.
yeah, what that's doing, it's not actually changing the keyframes. It's making the container longer. Yeah, so that keyframe, the final keyframe is still going to be on frame 24, but now we're adding additional keyframes after it. So if I put this back to 1, and if I put this to 48, the container's longer. Well, something got mixed up. Yeah, see how it still ends at frame 24? Yeah, and then all of this is empty kind of keyframes, empty frames in the container. There we go. So if you really wanted to make it longer, slow it down, it's under action clip and playback scale. We'll make it 3 times longer. Now it's going to be a nice, epic opening, nice and slow, and then it closes fast. This will be fun. This will be very silly. If we go into that exact same area, I'm on the one that's been reversed, so the door closing now. In addition to playback scale, we also have repeat. Interesting thought. What do you think repeat's going to do? It's going to repeat the clip over and over and over again. This will be a really silly example. Let's put the repeat to 5. So now the door is just going to be flapping in the wind here.
I think you misunderstood that question. In that active strip area,
Uh-huh.
if you change those frames, it will stretch it. So at the top,
At the top.
very top, right there.
Let's see. All right. So now this is the original keyframe data. If we were to go in here, active strip, let's put this to 48. Okay. Opens all the way. Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah, 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. Okay. So, repeat, as one might imagine, is just going to repeat that clip over and over and over again. Where could we use this repeat function? Flying birds, absolutely. Given our lab assignment that we're going to be doing here in a minute, where can we use that repeat function? The wheels, right? We can have one animation clip that just has the wheel do one revolution, right? And then we can just repeat that over and over and over again. An example. You don't have to actually do that, but that's just an example. For our cube copter, propellers. It's not actually an easy thing to keyframe animate, right? But with animation clips, it's really easy. Imagine for a second that you're trying to have an animation of the propellers starting up, spinning, and then stopping. How would you do that? Head scratcher, right? It's possible, but it's wicked hard to control. Animation clips, easier. A lot easier, actually. Cool, huh? All right. We've been going for a couple hours. Now it's a really great time for a break. And we'll come back in and we'll start our catapult. Sound good? All right.